Okay, let's start with day 7. Okay, so up till now we learned how to query, right? But let's say, query is fine. But let's say when you are doing analysis, okay, and some kind of analytics, you will be in a almost every time you will face situations where you will need to put a query and for one query, and then you to find some other column you need to put one more query or something else, and then there will be a need that you will find yourself that you cannot generate this data just from the table, okay, or just from the where clause. You will see that I need more queries within a query in order to satisfy uh, uh, my analysis. So what can I do in that case? In that case, we will use subqueries. Subqueries are also called inner queries. So I'll give you an example. Let's say this is my problem. I want to know who has a salary greater than Abel's. Okay. Now I have a able person in my employee. Okay. I have a able person. So let's say select star from employees. Okay. I have this guy, able guy. Let's say where first underscore name like able. We don't have able. Is able a first name or even a last name? Let's see if this is a last name. Yeah, it's a last name. So this guy is able. He earns $11,000 salary, right? I want to know who has a salary greater than able. If there is anyone who earns more than able, those kind of analysis you will come across every time. Okay, every time you will come across some these kind of analysis, because most of the analysis are not just querying the tables. Most of the analysis, most of the records you will have to create. Those are not, until now whatever we have seen, those were already available in the table except few calculations that we learned. But now we need to, not only we need to query the table, but we need to design our data. Okay, in that case we need to know how to do that. Now I want to know this, who has a salary greater than Abel's. How can I get that? First of all, I need to know what is the Abel's salary, right? Then once I get that amount, then only I can query that Abel's salary is this, so get me all the employees who earns more than Abel. So now I know that Abel earns 11,000. Okay. So if my query was very simple, then I would just say salary greater than 11,000, and that's it. And it should give me all the result, right? But I don't even know 11,000. I don't even know Abel earns how much Abel earned. I don't know until and unless I see into the table, right? Now if I'm creating a analysis, I would not know. I cannot just go and keep looking where the able is, in thousands of rows and things like that. And sometimes I am preparing it for a reporting purpose. Today it is able salary, tomorrow it will be somebody else's salary. I cannot just keep going and changing my hard coded value, right? So what I need to know is, first of all, I need to find out what is the able's salary. So to solve this problem, I will need to have two queries. One to find how much Abel earns, and second query to find who earns more than that amount, right? Now, how can I do that? I can solve this problem by combining two queries. That means I have to create two queries, placing one query inside the other query. Okay, so let's see how that works. So one query, which salary have, which is this query, what is able salary, one query inside another query. So this is my main query where I'll say which employees have salaries greater than able salary, and my inner query or sub query is what is able salary. Once I have able salary, then I can generate my other query, right? So how can I do that? For that, I need a subquery. I need to create a subquery. So to create a subquery, there is a proper syntax on how to creating a subquery. Until now, we have learned all the syntaxes in SQL. Okay, whatever SQL was there, syntaxes, clauses, keywords, we know everything. Now we are creating queries inside another query. These are also we can call as nested queries. Okay, like how we learned the nested function, similar to that. Now things are going to get difficult from here. Okay, so a subquery is a select statement that is embedded in the clause of another select statement. Okay, here you can see that it is embedded into another select statement. Okay, it is embedded into that. So what we can do is, with this kind of subqueries, we can create powerful statements. Okay, we can get what not we can get. Okay, we can get everything, and our queries could go into multiple, into hundreds and thousands of lines, one single query. Okay, if you know these subqueries, and they are very useful. Okay, in order to generate the data, in order to do analysis and things like that. Now where can we place this subquery? Okay, where can we place this subquery? So where can we place this subquery? Okay, we can place this subquery in where clause, in having clause, from clause, as well as in select clause itself, like here. Okay, I can place a query within a select. I can place a query here, so no need for table. Directly from the from clause, I can I'll have a select subquery and can get the data from table. I can get the where clause, I can use the subquery. Okay, which I'm already doing here. Along with that, I can use it in the having clause as well. Okay, so all of these places I can use a subquery. Okay, so the what happens is, the subquery generally executes first, and whatever output I get, that output is used to complete the query condition of the main query. So first this is executed, then whatever result I get here, okay, whatever result I get, that particular result will be substituted here in the operator, in the where clause condition. Okay, and then this query will be executed. This is the whole process of how this query will work. Okay, let's see the next slide and let's learn how this thing works. So I have an example here. So let's take this example and run it. And this gives me name of all the employees and their salary who earns more than able. So what I did, first of all, I need to find out how much does able earn, right? So I will say select. Okay, I need to find out the salary of the able. Select salary from employees where last underscore name is equal to, let's say now I know that able is the exact name, able, right? And then I run this, I got the 11,000. Now I create one more query on top of this query. Now I got 11,000. I can just simply put where clause in where clause 11,000. So let's say I, whatever query that we have created earlier, I'm just typing it again. So last underscore name, comma, salary from employees where salary is greater than 11,000. This will give me salary for all the employees who earn more than able salary, but I don't know 11,000. So I need to substitute this query on 11,000, right? So I'll say here and I'll put it in the parenthesis. Okay, and I'll make it like this. Okay, I'll put it in the parenthesis and then I'll run it, and then I get the same result, right? So what it does is it runs this query first, and then it, whatever result that I get from here, it puts that result here. So this is the way how you can use the subquery. Now, as I mentioned earlier, my subquery has a syntax. What is the syntax? The syntax is that you'll put a select statement, which is your main query, basically your main query here, up to where, if you are putting in a where clause, right, up to the where clause, and then whatever parameter that you are, or column or expression that you are going to be putting in the condition to for the comparison, you'll put that expression or column with the operator sign, which is in our case was greater than operator sign, and then you will put another subquery. This particular subquery must be in the parenthesis. It has to be in the parenthesis. I just cannot leave it without the parenthesis. Okay, I just cannot leave it without the parenthesis. It will give me an error if I put it without the parenthesis. So this has to be put in parenthesis. As soon as I put in parenthesis, my SQL will know that it needs to run this query first. So that's why it requires you to put a parenthesis. Okay, now I put a parenthesis and I run this query and it gives me the result. Okay, so this is how we run a subquery. Okay, do you guys have any questions up to here? Okay, then as I mentioned earlier, there are certain guidelines to using a subquery. The guideline number 1, a subquery must be enclosed in the parenthesis. We already learned that. Number 2, we have to place the subquery on the right side of the comparison condition. It is not mandatory. You can put it in the left side also. These are just the guidelines. Okay. The first was enclosing in a parenthesis was mandatory. Putting something on the right side, it is up to you. Generally we put it on the right side, not on the left side. Why? Because for our readability, because when you are working on analysis and analytics, your query can, as I mentioned earlier, your queries can go up to hundreds and thousands of lines, right? And when it becomes so big, it is very important that you indent it properly. Okay, or you for reading purposes. Okay, I'll show you how to do that indenting. Okay, we'll see it in the SQL developer. My system is very slow, guys, so it's not even okay. Let's run it from here. Okay, my system is very slow, so it takes a lot of time to run it, but this is the exactly the same IDE, and we always use these kind of powerful IDEs rather than the those training and student purposes, playing around environment. So let's say I have this. Okay, and let's say I run this query here, whatever query I wrote. Okay, I don't even know if able will be there or not, but I'm just hoping that able would be there. Let's run this. Okay, let's see if I even get a result. Table not found. So basically it doesn't even have an employee table. Maybe it has a EMP table. Yeah, earlier we used to use EMP table, so it has a EMP table, and this also has a EMP table. Now this will be cell, I'm sure. EMP table has cell and ename. See, this is very important. You should know your column names and your table names, and this will how will you know your column names and table names? Using the ERD diagram. We learned ERD diagram in our first class. Remember, guys? Okay, now I don't know if ename is even there. This able guy is there. There's no able guy. That's why it says no data found, 0 rows patched. Anyway, doesn't matter. What I wanted to show is, let's say I write a query like this. Okay, and this is not very in a readable format, right? I want to make it a readable format. Now every IDE, whether you are using Toad, SQL, or any other IDE, they give you commands to make it readable. Just one command. Here it is very simple. Just press Ctrl F7 and see how it automatically makes it readable. Okay, automatically it makes it readable. So like that, when your queries are very big, okay, then you can create them readable. So for example, let's see if I have a view or something. I do not have any. Anyway, let's go back to our slides. So you have to make the query in the put the query in the right side of the where condition. for the readability purposes, right? Now, um, that's one thing. Now we have two kind of operators that we can put. One is single row operator and the other one is multiple row operators. Okay, now this operator itself will tell you that we are talking about that there are two types of subqueries that you can use. One is a single row subquery and the other one is a multiple row subquery. So this is similar to your functions, right? Similar to your functions, what we learned, single row function and multiple row function. Similarly, these are subqueries. We can use the operators as single row subquery for the single row subquery or for the multiple row subquery. We'll learn them. Let's go to the next slide. So now two different types of subqueries. One is a single row subquery and the other one is a multiple row subquery. What happens to a single row subquery? Single row subqueries, queries that return only one row, which we can see here, only one row from the inner select statement. Okay, this particular query will return only one row. Okay, inner query, this is inner query, it is also called inner query or subquery. Okay, so this returns only one row. In multiple row subqueries, this returns more than one row. Okay, returns more than one row. These are rows, returns more than one row from the inner select statement. And those are, this is how we have divided types of subqueries. Two types: subquery, single row subquery and multiple row subquery. Okay, let's go to next step. Okay, now operators in single row subquery, same operators, we have already learned these. Okay, these are equal to, greater than, greater than equal to, less than equal to, or not equal to. These are my operators that I use. So a single row subquery is one that returns one row from the inner select statement, right? And we use these single row operators for those kind of queries. Now let's see an example, and let's say I want to display the employees whose job ID is same as that of employee 141. Okay, so whose job ID is same as that of an employee number 141. So let's say my employee 141 is a sales rep. Now I want to know how many of the employees are same as sales rep, or are sales rep, which is the job ID of 141 employee. Let's say I need to find out, I see one person, Ajay, and I see this guy is a sales rep, and I wanted to know how many of person like him are in my company. Because let's say either this person is too good or this person is very bad and I don't want him in my company, and I want to see how many of such persons are there in my company. So whatever job ID he works for, I don't know who he works for, as a what is his title. I'm a top boss, I don't even know this guy. Okay, so let's see how we can run this subquery. Do I have this query? No, I don't have this query. Okay, so we'll have to create a query. So let's create a query. So let's say 141, I said, right? First of all, I need to find out whether we do even have a 141 employee number or not. So select star from employees, where where employee ID underscore ID is equal to 141. Let's see first whether we have the 141. We do have 141. Okay. So what I need to know all employees who have same job ID as employee 141, as 141, right? So first of all, I need to find what is the job ID for 141. So I'll create a select statement, select star, instead of star I will need job underscore ID. This will give me the job ID for employee ID 141, right? So first of all, I need this. Then once I get that, then I will create my main query, where I will select all these employees. Okay, all the last name of the employees from employees. Okay, and let's select the title also, which is a job ID. Okay, from employees where job underscore id, right, is equal to, because why equal to, because it's going to return only one row and it should match with this guy, right, is equal to this. And you run this and it gives me all these employees who have same job id as the employee 141. Now if you guys remember, I told you guys earlier that I do not care if I type select in uppercase, from in uppercase, where do I put my where clause, and I don't care, I can just, when I'm writing like big queries, I don't care where I'm writing. I'm just going to write in one line, that's it. As long as I am able to understand, I don't care. Okay, I just write it. Then what I do is, once it is done or it becomes too complicated or too big and I need to do an indenting, what I do is, let's say I'm creating it here, what I do is I just take this, okay, and control F7, and that's it. And it automatically does it for me. So why do I care, if my where clause in select clause in lowercase, uppercase, I don't care. That's why I don't care. I don't waste time in doing it myself. Okay, anyway. All right, so this is what we learned. Let's go back. Okay, so now we learned how to run the single row subqueries. Now there could be a scenario where, let's say, I want to select a um, uh, last name, job id, and salary of employees who do the same job as Taylor but earn more salary than him. Okay, who do the same job as Taylor but earn more salary than him. Sorry. All right. So who does the same job as Taylor? So first of all, I need to find out what job ID does Taylor have. That's number one. Then it says but earn more than what Taylor earns. So first is I need to find out job ID of Taylor. Okay, you can write it like that. First of all, I need to find out what is the job ID of Taylor. Second, I need to find out how much salary does Taylor earn. So salary of Taylor, right? And then once I have these two information, then I can create my main query. My main query is to get all the employees who meet these two conditions. Okay, so let's first create the first subquery. So which is, now because I've already copied it, I'll just use that. Okay, let's take this out. Let's take this out. Okay, so this is how I will get the job ID of my of employee Taylor, right? This is how I get the job ID of Taylor. This, I get my job ID. Now if I, let's say if I run this, I'll get the job ID of Taylor. Invalid character. You know why it's invalid? Because when you copy, sometimes select does not take it takes a comma, but these are the quotes, so it likes only quotes only. So now you can see that the job ID of this particular guy is Taylor um, is mentioned here, right? Now this will give me an error. Okay, because why? Because there are two Taylors in my, this itself is giving me and telling me that I have two Taylors. Okay, if you type here last underscore first underscore name, first underscore name, I will get two. I have two Taylors, Jonathan and Winston. Now I don't know whom I'm talking about, right? Which Taylor? So I'll go back to my stakeholders or whoever is wants me to run this query, and I will ask them, which Taylor are you talking about? Sir, I have two Taylors. Are you talking about both their salaries or are you talking about one of them? So the guy will come back and say, oh, no. I am talking about only one guy who is a sales rep, for example. Okay, so I know Jonathan is a sales rep, so I have to add one more thing here. Okay, I will add the employee ID of Jonathan, or I will add the first name also. So let's say I'll add the first name. So I'll say first underscore name. Okay. And then this, and then here itself, I will say Jonathan, Jonathan, Jonathan Taylor. And because I did not give any space, I will put it like this. Okay. And then I will run it. Then it gives me Jonathan. So I want to know the job ID of Jonathan Taylor. Okay. So this guy will give me job ID of Jonathan Taylor. Now I need to find out what is the salary of Jonathan Taylor. So I'll create one more subquery for salary of Jonathan Taylor. So here I'll say salary of Jonathan Taylor. Now this will give me salary of Jonathan Taylor. So I got two subqueries. Then I will create my main query. My main query is select last underscore name, and what else? Last underscore name, job underscore ID, and then salary from employees where person should have the same job ID as Taylor. That was my first condition. So where job underscore ID is equal to same as Jonathan Taylor. So I'll copy this. Now my guideline says that I need to put this in the bracket. So I'll put this in the bracket. So this is one condition. And then the second condition was that the person should earn more than Jonathan. So let's say Jonathan is my benchmark. Jonathan earns $10,000, and I want to know this guy is already earning $10,000. Who earns more than these guys? This guy. I am a top boss. I just came to know that Jonathan is earning $10,000, and they are wasting my money because Jonathan doesn't do any work. So I want to know how many more employees like Jonathan in the same field, in the same title, earns more than Jonathan. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll select and then I'll write another query. So another query meaning I have to say salary, because who earns more than Jonathan? Salary is greater than that of Jonathan Taylor. So then I copy this and then I will put this in the bracket, and this will be my query. Let's delete this, and then I have this query, and you can see I have a typing mistake here, and then I run this. And it gives me all those employees who have the same job ID as Jonathan Taylor and who earn more than Jonathan Taylor. How much my Jonathan Taylor was earning? I don't even know, whatever salary. Now I can, if I want to see how much Jonathan Taylor was earning, I can just select this like this and then run this query, and this gives me 8,600. So all these guys are earning more than 8,600. Now let's say I want to order by last name. So I'll just say order by last name. Okay, and then I run this, and then it's why is it saying an error? This is interesting. Why it is saying an error? Oh, I probably did not select it earlier. Anyway, you don't have to select actually. If there is only one, you don't even have to select, you can just run it. Okay, so this gives me salary of job ID of all those, all those employees who have the same title as Jonathan Taylor and earns more than Jonathan Taylor. Okay, so this completes my, so this way I can have as many number of subqueries, okay, in my where clause. I can, if I have more conditions to look for, I can add more queries here, right? So this is how I run the query. Okay, now let's go to the next one. Okay, now I can use a grouping function in subquery. Before I do that, I want to actually show you that, let's say I want to do this. Okay, so this is fine. This is fine. It is giving me all those employees who have same job ID as Jonathan Taylor. But along with this, I want to add within this subquery for example, I want to add one more subquery and something, whatever. Okay, I don't even remember, but let's say I want to add something. Let's say I want to add where job ID, instead of, let's say, first name last name Jonathan Taylor, I say last name of Taylor, right? And so all those employees who have the same last name as Taylor, what is their job ID? Okay, and then I want to add one more condition here, and let's say salary is greater than that of Abel's salary. So now I need to find out the salary of Abel's. So then I will create one more select statement right here. Okay, and then there is this bracket of this upper select. So I'll create one more select statement right here. So I'll say select salary from employees where what was the name? Able, right? So where last underscore name is equal to able, and then I'll put this also in bracket, like in parentheses, right? So what I have done is I have this main query, then I have a outer query. This is my outer query up to here. Then I have inner query. So this is an inner query for my main query. This is my inner query for my outer query of this query. So I have nested queries. Like that, I can keep on adding the queries. Okay, so this makes SQL very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. I can do whatever. What not I can do. Okay, I can create lot of things here by putting these select statements. All right, let's move to our next slide. So next slide is using the group function in a subquery. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I am showing all employees who earn um, at least the minimum salary of my employees. Okay, my employees minimum salary. So let's say I have 5 employees who are clerk and they earn just $2,000 per month. Okay, 5 employees who earn $2,000 per month, but I don't know how much lower I can I have employees who earn the least amount of salary. I don't know. So I need to know, first of all, find out what is the lowest salary that I'm giving to my employees. Okay, and then I want to know how many of my employees earn that least amount of salary. Okay, how many is my lowest bracket. Okay, so I want to give some kind of bonus to these guys. Okay, so the query here is I want to display um, information like last name, job ID, salary of all employees whose salary is equal to the minimum salary in my company. Okay, minimum salary in my company. So first of all, I need to find out what is the minimum salary of my company. So I'll say select min of, okay, salary from employees. This will give me the minimum salary of my company, right? Now if you notice here what I have used here, this is a function and this is a group function, right? If I remove this function, then I am going to get multiple rows. If I remove this function, I'm going to get multiple rows of all the salaries of all the employees. When I add this function, it groups it, okay, and it returns me only one row. Okay, and it returns me only one row. That is why it is a group function. So what I used a group function here. And then what I say I want to know how many of my employees earn this amount of salary. Select star from employees where salary is equal to this minimum amount of salary. Okay, where salary is equal to this minimum amount of salary. And it says missing expression. Why? Because we haven't put brackets, and it gives me there is only one person who is getting the minimum amount of salary, and this guy is Olson Jolson, whatever. TJ Olson. Okay. So this is the only guy who's earning minimum amount of salary, and this guy is also an ST clerk. So this way we can use the group function. Now unmute yourself, guys. I want to know how can I use a group function in a where clause. Remember we were saying that group function can be used only in a having clause and not in a where clause. So how can I use that? Okay, I'll give you an answer. The answer is because I am saying salary. Okay, here I am saying salary. I'm not putting a group function here. This is not my function like this. It is not like this. Had it been like this, I wouldn't be able to use where. I have to use a group by and plus I mean sorry having, and then I have to group by this, right? So what I'm saying is salary like this, and because I am comparing the column or the expression which is not a group function, then I can use it here. Okay, and I don't need it. Okay, let's go back to the next slide. Now the next slide is using the having clause in subqueries. Okay, something that we discussed just before that, why we did not use a having clause there. Okay, now we can use subqueries not only in the where clause as I mentioned earlier, we can also use them in the having clause, right? Now the server executes the subquery and the results first are written in the having clause, and then from the having clause it gives me other information, it runs the main query. So what I'm trying to do here, I am trying to find all the departments that have a minimum salary greater than that of department 50. Okay, so first of all I need to find out how many of my what is the minimum salary in the department 50. Then I need to find out, once I get that minimum salary, then I need to find out how many departments have that minimum salary. Okay, have greater than that minimum salary. Okay, how many of my departments earn more than, okay, their employee salary starts with more than the minimum of my department 50. Now things you can see here that things are getting complicated. Okay, what I'm trying to do here is I have a requirement to do an analysis to find out how many of my departments that have a minimum salary greater than that of department 50. So first of all I need to find out what is the salary of my minimum salary of my department 50, right? This is how I can find out the minimum salary of department 50, where department ID is equal to 50. This will give me the minimum salary. So I get that. Okay, now I will do this. I need to find out minimum salary now. Okay, department ID and their minimum salary. So I need to find out the minimum salary by department ID. So let's say I do this by department ID, I get the minimum salary. Okay, I get the minimum salary by department ID, so I get 50 also, but I want to get only those which earn more than the minimum salary of department ID 50, more than the minimum salary of department ID 50. So if I use where clause here, okay, and if I say where, now what where, this is the minimum salary, guys. Okay, this is not the salary, this is the minimum salary. Where minimum salary, let's say I put the minimum salary here, where minimum salary is greater than this in the parenthesis. When minimum salary is greater than the minimum salary of department ID 50, this will give me an error. Why? Because I am using a group function in where clause. No, I cannot use a group function in where clause. For that I have to use a having clause, right? Things are getting complicated here. Okay, so I have to use a having clause. So with having I can find out all the departments who are earning minimum salary greater than that of department ID 50. Okay, so let's say my department ID 50 is sales department, or let's say clerk department. So whoever other departments who are earning that minimum salary, I want to raise a bar. Okay, I want to raise a bar that, I want to give all the departments a salary boost if they are earning that amount of salary with with the as per the department ID 50. So I want to know how many of the departments earn more than at least the minimum salary of 50, and so I will know how many are left out, something like that. So that way I can find out. Now let's say I have another query that I want to write, where I want to find out the job with the lowest average salary. Job with the lowest average salary. Now this is getting tough. I am telling you. So job of lowest average salary. Okay, so first of all I want to find out what is the lowest average salary in my company. So how I can do? Select, okay, lowest average salary. I need to use nested functions here. Okay, those nested functions will be a group by functions, because average I have to use lowest, which is a min, which is a group function, and then average is also a group function. So I have to use two nested group functions. So I'll say select average, lowest min, then average of salary from employees, and then I have to use group by here, right? Because I am using a nested, I always have to do a group by. So I have to do group by job underscore ID. Okay, if I do job underscore ID, what it will do? First of all, I need to find out what is the average salary by job ID. Then I can find out what is the minimum salary in my as per the job IDs, right? So this is per job ID. These are the average salary per job ID. Now I need to find out what is the minimum average salary in my company. Minimum average salary per as per the job IDs. So this will give me the minimum average salary. Now I need to find out all the jobs that have the lowest average minimum salary. So then I will create a main query. So I'll say select, and then I'll say job underscore ID, and then I need to find out the average lowest average salary. So now I need to find out the lowest average salary. So I'll say average underscore salary, right, from employees. Then I'll say, okay, I have to say group by here. Why? Because I used a group function there. So group by job underscore ID, right? And then I'll say having, I have to put this in a having clause, because I need to find out what is the minimum average salary. So the average salary is equal to this guy, minimum average salary, right? This will give me the average salary, which is the job ID of average salary, lowest average salary. So this is the job ID with the lowest average salary. Okay, so things are getting difficult here. Okay, let's move on. Now I need to find out what is wrong with this we have already learned. What is wrong with this statement? Can anyone tell me what is wrong with this statement? Okay, I'll tell you what is wrong with this statement. Let's take this as an example. Are you guys still there with me? Things are getting clear. I hope you guys are not sleeping.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, all right. So what is wrong with this statement? Just by looking at this inner query, I can tell what is wrong with this statement. The something wrong is this guy. Okay, group ID, group by department ID. This is wrong. This, sorry, this guy is wrong. Okay, this guy is wrong. Why this guy is wrong? Group by department ID, because when I run this, it will give me minimum salary by each department. Okay, it will give me minimum salary by my subquery is right. Okay, it will work correctly. If I run this my subquery, it will work fine. See, I'm going to run this subquery. It is working fine. So there is no problem with my subquery, but this subquery is giving me minimum salary for each department ID. For each department, it is giving me minimum salary. And when I'm saying where salary is equal to this, it doesn't know which one to I look for. I'm using an equal to sign, and equal to sign meaning my subquery is returning more than one row. Okay, my subquery is returning more than one row, and I am more than one row, and in a single row subquery. This is should be a single row subquery because my operator is a equal to operator. So this is a single row subquery, and a single row subquery is returning me more than one row. Of course, it is going to fail. So I'm going to get an error. So my error is single row subquery returns more than one row. It cannot return more than one row. If I remove this guy, just this guy, then it will work. So this is the minimum salary of my employees, and who earns the equal to the minimum salary is this guy. So that's why. So the common error that most of the people, even as many number of experience that somebody has, they make, sometimes they make this mistake because when they are in so much hurry writing something dung 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 dung, and then they forget that this query is going to return me multiple rows. So a common error with subqueries occurs when more than one row is returned for a single row subquery. Okay, here we can see that it was returning more than one query, and with an equal to operator, a single row comparison cannot be done. Now if I want to do a single row comparison, like a multiple row comparison here, like this, okay, then instead of equal to, I have to say in, right? Instead of equal to, if I say in, then it will look for all these salaries, and then it will return me the row. Okay, so I can use in, I can use greater than. Okay, actually greater than will not work, because if I use greater than, then also it will say only look for only one record, only one row, then also I have to remove this department ID. So in this case only in will work, only in will work. Okay, all right, let's see in the next, let's run this to show how this will work first. See, it worked, it returned everything. Okay, so the next slide shows you no rows written by the inner query. No, here no rows it is written by the inner query. Why no rows? Because there is, when I run this, okay, let's see what happens when I run this. When I run this, my subquery does not return any person, because there's no person like has, there's no last name like has. So this returns null, and when this returns null, my main query will definitely return no row found, because it could not find this guy. Okay, this return no row found. If you run this, it will return no row found, no data found. So it could not found anything, and when it cannot find anything, this will not find anything. Okay, so it is not equal, it is like a, like it will not return you null, but it will say no row found. Okay, because the subquery returns nothing. So this is also a very common problem. Okay, when a subquery results in no rows, okay, then what happens when a subquery returns no rows, then my outer query returns no rows. Okay, so that's what we have learned here. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so now I have another example. This is an example subquery that I just created for you guys. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to find all employees who are not IT program, so whose job ID is not IT program, and they earn less than every IT programmer. I said every IT programmer. Okay, every. So that's why I was able to, this is same as this one. So when I'm saying every IT programmer, how do I find somebody who earns all the employees who earn more than or less than every IT programmer? Every IT programmer. So when I'm saying every IT programmer, that means I need to find out who earns the minimum salary as an IT programmer, because I'm saying every IT programmer. So whoever earns the lowest, I need to find out that first. So see, this is where your analytical thinking will come into picture, because you will get scenarios like there's find out the salary of the this guy, all the employees who earn less than every IT programmer. Now they will just say every IT programmer. They will not say who earns less than the minimum salary of every IT programmer. No, they will say who earns less than every IT programmer. Now this is where you will think every IT programmer means whoever starts, whatever the starting salary of the IT programmer, I need to take that salary. That's how I will have all the IT programmer, every IT programmer. So you will create this salary, this query first. Select min salary from employees where job ID is equal to IT program. Okay, this is the 4,200. This is the minimum salary of the IT programmer. And then it says the salary is less than that of the minimum salary of IT programmer. Okay, less than the minimum salary of IT programmer, and the job ID is not IT program. Okay, so I created and job ID is not IT program. So these two queries, these two conditions I created, and then I get all these employees who earn less than that of every IT programmer, and these are not IT programmer. They cannot be IT programmer anyway, because who earns less than the IT programmer and they are not IT programmers. So this is actually irrelevant, to be honest with you. Okay, this is actually logically it is irrelevant. I'm still going to get the same result. How many results? I'm getting 44 rows. Let's see if I still get 44 rows. I still get 44 rows, right guys? I will continue to get 44 rows. Why? Because this is every job ID IT programmer is not required at all here. So even though they say this should not be who earns less than the salary of the every IT programmer, and the person should not be in IT program. Okay, I understand. And if I'm fetching the minimum salary of the of that of an IT programmer, and I'm saying who earns less than the minimum salary of the IT programmer, all the IT programmers are already excluded. So I don't need to add another condition. My query will be fast. Even if I use this, it won't be any difference, except that my query will take more time, because now it will run one more. So every IT programmer. Okay. Now we have multiple row subqueries. Okay, multiple row subqueries are same thing what we learned. We use only one condition for the multiple row subqueries, that is in. If you have in, you put in, then it will add or clauses there basically. So that is a multiple row subquery. So what does in do? In is equal to any member in the list of the subquery that you get. So any amount or any member or any value that you get from the result of the subquery, it will use that as in the in clause. Okay, so subqueries that return more than one row are called multiple row subqueries, and we can use in clause, okay, instead of a single row operator, which is equal to, greater than, equal to, less than, equal to, not equal to. So instead of single row operator, I can use in operator to for my multiple row subquery. Okay, now let's see how this thing works. So I want to know, I want to find out the last name and salary of all the employees who earns minimum salary of each department ID. Who earns minimum salary of each department ID? Let's see if I have this. Okay, so I have the same query here, but let's say I want to do this. Who earns minimum query of each department? So let's say salary last underscore name comma it is last underscore name. So last underscore name, comma, salary, comma, department underscore ID, okay, from employees where salary in, okay. Now I need to find out the minimum salary by each department. Salary min salary from employees, okay, from employees, then group by department underscore ID, right? And this is the min salary. So what this will return me? This will return me multiple rows, each salary by the department ID. We already saw this, right? This will return me the minimum salary for each department ID. And it says invalid statement. What is wrong here? From
Not
employees.
select,
Come again?
select clause was not used.
Yes, you are right. Instead of select, I am using salary. Right. Okay. So select of min. So select min. So it's giving me the minimum salary by each department ID. Now I need to find out how many of my employees earn this much salary. Okay, how many of my employees earn this much salary? So that means it will give me all those employees who earn the lowest salary by department. All those employees who earn the lowest salary in each department, I am going to get this. Okay, so
You
what
will
they will,
have to,
the same
yeah.
select everywhere. I make the same mistake everywhere. Okay, so this is going to give me like this. Okay, so what I'm, when they tell you, they'll tell you, okay, Ajay, find out how many employees earn the minimum salary in each department. That's all they will tell me, and then I will analytically think, how do I get who earns the minimum salary in each department? First of all, I need to find out what is the minimum salary in each department, and then who earns the minimum salary. That will give me the department, that will give me the minimum salary in each department. So this is how I will do it. Okay, so now you can see that department 50, department ID 50. Okay, this guy, actually, did I run this? Okay, I did. Okay, so yeah, so who earns the minimum salary in each by each department? So you can see that 6500, he earned, this guy Volman earns 6500 in department ID 50, and also earns salary 50 in department ID 50. Why? Because this 6500 must be a minimum salary in some other department, right? So that's why it's just checking whoever earns the minimum salary by each department. Okay, all right, let's move on. Now this is the exact same thing what we did earlier. So exact same thing we are saying in, instead of the minimum salary, okay, I am saying who earns the salary equal to that of an IT programmer. Okay, earlier we said what we did earlier, we did min of whoever earns the lowest salary, right? Now here what we are doing, who earns the salary that equal to that of an IT programmer, and they should not be an IT programmer, right? Here we will need this clause, and they should not be an IT programmer. Why? Because if I do not use this clause, let's say, then it will bring me those employees also who are in IT program, right? See here, it is bringing me those employees also who are in IT program, right? And so I don't need them. I want to know only, sorry, I want to know only those employees who earn salary, uh, salaries that of IT programmers, okay, equal to IT programmers, but should not be an IT programmer. Okay, so that way I will have to write another condition where job ID is not equal to IT programmer. Okay, let's move on. The last one. This is the last slide for today, and this is an important one. Can you guys tell me what this will return to me? What I'm saying is select employee dot last. This is an interview question, guys. Select employee dot last name from employees. okay, where employee ID not in 1 comma 2 comma null, not in 1 comma 2 comma null. Okay, now let's run this. Let's take this out, null guy. Okay, so my employee ID should not be not in 1 or 2. So if my employee ID is not 1 and 2, it should return all of those last names. So of course it will return a lot of last names. In fact, everybody, whoever is not employee ID 1 or 2, right? All of those people. But when I say not 1, 2 or null, it returns me no data found. Why does it return me no data found? It should say, okay, one, all my employees, whoever my employees are not, does not have a employee ID 1, return all that, does not have a employee ID 2, 1 and 2, return all that, and also null. So my employee ID is nowhere null. So it should return everything, right? If I said, instead of this, if I say employee ID is not null, it will return everything, right? Because none of my employee ID is null anyway. So in this case, what's the problem? What is wrong with this guy? In this case, what was the problem? I'll tell you what is the problem. The problem is you are comparing null. Okay, you are comparing null with a not in. Okay, so your null is getting compared with not in. Okay, so what happens is logically the SQL statement should have written some rows, right? But the SQL statement could not return because any row, because it has started comparing your value with the null value. So because one of the values returned here is null value, the entire query returns null because the condition that starts comparing a null value always will give you a null. We already seen that null, whenever you do any arithmetic expression with null, it gives you a null. Similarly, whenever you do a not in operator with null, okay, so when you are saying not in null, so it get confused. Not in null meaning what? Not in null, it should use just say is not null. Okay, instead of this, I could say not in 1 comma 2 and is not null, like this. And employee ID underscore ID is not null. I can do this, but when I'm saying not in null, it gets confused. However, if I had said in like this, then it would have worked completely. Then it will think that you are talking about null also, and it will work. Okay, now because we do not have any 1-2 employee, but let's say if we have a employee ID, we know we have a 141 employee ID, right? 141, and let's say we may have 142 or whatever. So if we run this, see, it's returning. So when I'm saying in, it takes care of null, but when I'm saying not in, it does not take care of null because it could not compare with not in, not null. So this is an interview question. They may ask you that not in, okay, and then null here, or they may create a subquery here saying select whatever null or whatever, select star from employees where last underscore name is equal to HAAS, and there's no HAAS, right? So this will return you null, and as soon as this return you null, your main query returns you no data found. Your main query returns no data found. Do we have a has last name? Oh, yeah, no data. If we are saying not in, so we should say in actually here. In will work because it will return you a null value, right? So when we are saying not null, not in, then it will not give you that. But we have to say this is returning you no data found. But if you say not in, select start from this null from employees, then it will give you no data found, right? So not in gives you no data found. All right. Let's move on to our quiz. Using a subquery is equivalent to performing two sequential queries and using the result of the first query as the search value in the second query. Read it one more time, guys, and tell me if the answer is true or false.
False.
Okay. How about you, Shikha? Shikha, are you there?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I was talking, but I did not unmute myself. Yeah, it's false
It's false. Okay. Now tell me why it is false.
because we always run the second query first.
All right.
Yes. So, but what it's saying in and using the result of the first query, using a subquery is equivalent to performing two sequential queries and using the result of the first query as the search values in the second query. So this is right. The answer is false. Okay. All right. So this completes our today's session. All right, guys. So next week, I mean tomorrow, we will do next session, which is some set operators, and set operators are important. So we'll run the set operators. These set operators will be used for your analytics purpose, and mainly set operators are mainly used for not even for analysis purpose, but for generating the report, like for example generating the visuals, or generating the data reports, something like that. So in those cases these set operators are used. After that we will be doing the data manipulation language, which is like nothing like inserting a row, updating a row, and deleting a row, and then creating the tables, okay, and defining constant, and then the most one more important thing is view. So we'll try to cover as much as possible in the next slide, next session, and then after that we will do session whatever is left, we'll do that. And this coming Sunday, guys, we will not have any class. So I will give you more exercises for today's session and tomorrow's session, and use this Saturday and Sunday to complete all those exercises. And then whatever questions that you have, uh, send me over, and then I will do those questions. I will explain you those questions, so you will have, because I know that all the exercises are piling up, so you need time to get that thing done, also done, and this weekend you can utilize that. So we'll not have the class on this weekend. That way you will get time to do your exercises, and then whatever questions you have, you can ask me. And then next, so tomorrow we'll have class, and then after that we'll have class on Tuesday, next Tuesday.
Okay.
All right.
All
Yeah.
right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, guys. Have a good night. One more time, remember this subquery is very, very important topic in your SQL. This using the subqueries, you can do any type of analysis. Any. Okay.
Okay.
All right, guys. Have a good
All
night.
right.
Bye.
Yeah.
Good night.
Night. Night. Mm-hmm.